Welcome in the fourth section of our course. In this section, we'll be creating web interface with Spring Boot and Spring MVC. So at the beginning, we'll be adding Spring MVC to our Spring Boot application. Next step will be to create views for the payment and user. So we will try to take the controller payment entity, user entity, and expose those via the UI MVC call. Once we will expose it, we will create two views. First view will be for retrieving payment, so we'll try to get all payments from our system and expose this in a web browser in a graphic way. Other step will be to create a method that will be available to post new resource, new payment, using HTML form to our backend, save it in database, and then we'll be able to retrieve it back again. So finally, when we will do all those steps, we'll be testing MVC application that is using mock MVC construct. So we'll leverage that construct to mock the HTTP server and to interact with MVC. This is the first video in which we will be adding Spring MVC to Spring Boot application. So first step will be to adding Spring MVC dependencies. So we'll understand what those dependencies are, how can we add them, what dependency is needed to generate and render response in an HTML form. Also, we'll understand HTML generation process that is performed by the Spring framework. So let's understand Spring MVC flow. In the MVC pattern, we have three main components: model, view, and controller. The user is interacting with the view. So when the user is opening a web browser, he has a view open in the browser. So this is a part that user will see the content and also is able to add the content to the view. So that is the first step. Next, when the user submits that he wants to retrieve the view from the application, this request is going to the controller. So controller is retrieving the request, it fetches the data, and also it will create an output. Output will be HTML. But also, before the controller will compose the view, he will need to take data from database. So it will fetch the data from database and put the data into the model. So controller manipulates the model, so it can add new things to model and also remove things from the model. So those is a second thing that controller is doing. Finally, the model can fire an event that it is ready, and then controller will expose rendered response as an HTML website, and it will be the view that user can access. So those are steps that we'll need to create when we want to expose our application via MVC pattern using Spring. So let's go to the code. So to be able to use MVC, we need to add couple dependencies. We have a Spring framework, Spring Boot, but still we need to add an MVC dependency. So it will be a web dependency. So for example, we are creating here Spring Boot Starter Web. Web is an artifact that has MVC and other dependencies that are needed underneath. So it will go to the Spring parent, it will fetch the MVC, MVC testing, and so on. So we'll be able to access that. We'll create our view in the resources and in the templates. In the templates, we will have an HTML files, but all files are in a different format. So this is not HTML yet because it needs to be rendered by the controller and the model needs to be injected into that view, if you remember from the previous graphic. So the model will be injected in this HTML page and it will be returned to the end user. So in the next video, we'll be doing it.